Transforming your life with hypnotherapy just got easier with your host, Julie from CoachingHypnosis.net.
Welcome back, dear listener, to Coaching Hypnosis. We are on day 3 of our special 30-day countdown, the world's darkest hypnosis cases. So far, we've unmasked the estate planning fraud of a Texas hypno-cult and dissected the high-ticket corporate word salad of NXIVM. Today, we are stepping into the sun-drenched, seemingly peaceful world of the 1980s, Hollywood and the beaches of Hawaii to look at a psychological predator who hid his control inside the ultimate organic wellness mirage. We decode the bizarre case of Jamie Gomez, known to his followers as simply Michel, the leader of the Buddhafield cult. If you have ever watched the incredible 2016 documentary, Holy Hell, you've seen the actual archival footage of this group. It consisted of exceptionally beautiful, idealistic, creative young artists living communally, dancing in the woods, drinking green juice and practicing yoga. Michel didn't use complex corporate buzzwords or terrifying threats of cosmic entities. He promised something much sweeter, direct, experiential connection with God. He promised to dissolve your ego entirely so you could merge with the divine light. But while his followers thought they were experiencing spontaneous, miraculous spiritual awakenings, Michel was actually utilizing a highly systemic textbook application of deep, guided hypnotic trance states and visual sensory manipulation. What makes this case a crucial study for our series is a frustrating legal reality. Despite decades of alleged psychological abuse, severe financial exploitation and deep coercion exposed by former members, Michel has exactly 0 criminal convictions. He avoided the justice system by keeping his manipulation entirely in the psychological shadows, and he continues to operate his spiritual teachings in Hawaii to this very day. Let's look at the actual clinical architecture of how he pulled off this divine illusion. Jamie Gomez was a failed Hollywood actor and dancer who realized a profound psychological truth. The exact same performance skills used to hold an audience's attention on a theatre stage could be used to trap a person's mind in real life. He gathered a following of young seekers and introduced a highly intense private ritual he called giving the shati. In traditional Eastern philosophy, shati refers to divine cosmic energy, but in Michel's hands, the shati was a masterfully executed high-leverage hypnotic induction. He would bring a follower into a pitch-black room, completely isolated from the outside world. He would sit inches away from them, locking eyes in an unblinking, hyper-focused gaze. In clinical hypnosis, we call this visual fixation. By forcing the human eye to focus intently on a single point, you fatigue the optic nerve, quiet the analytical left hemisphere of the brain, and open a direct pipeline straight to the raw subconscious canvas. Stage 1. Optic nerve fixation. Fatigue the optic nerve through an intense, unblinking, closed quarters gaze. Lock the logical left hemisphere of the brain completely offline. Stage 2. Somatic anchor injection. Flood the relaxed nervous system with dopamines and endorphins, fusing that intense emotional euphoric high directly to the guru's physical touch. Stage 3. The boundary dissolution arrays. Label the client's natural gut instincts and protective boundaries as toxic ego attachments, forcing them to actively ignore their own radar. Michel would then use slow, rhythmic, highly melodic pacing, instructing the follower to breathe in his breath and dissolve their conscious thoughts. He would gently touch their forehead, establishing a profound physical anchor and guide them into a deep somnambulistic trance state. During these sessions, he would suggest that they were melting into pure cosmic light. Because the brain was flooded with dopamine and endorphins from the deep relaxation and the intense emotional release, the followers attributed this euphoric high entirely to Michel's spiritual power. They genuinely believed that he was the source of light. Once that profound state of suggestibility was anchored, this systematic dismantling began. Michael convinced his followers that their individual identities, their personal desires, their families and their memories were nothing but toxic ego attachments, holding them back from enlightenment. Over the next 2 decades, his followers handed over their finances, severed all ties with their parents and submitted to total behavioral control, including dictated diets, mandatory plastic surgeries to match his aesthetic, and severe exploitation, all believing they were simply cleansing their egos under the guidance of the master. Let's look at the absolute sarcastic and monumental absurdity of this entire divine illusion. You had an entire community of beautiful, highly capable artists who convinced themselves that the ultimate path to cosmic ego death involved living in a commune, working for free, and funding multiple plastic surgeries for a man who spent his afternoons walking around in Speedos, wearing heavy eyeliner and a cowboy hat while staring at himself in a mirror for hours. It is the absolute peak of narcissistic comedy. If you walk into a dental clinic today and the dentist tells you that to fix your cavity, you need to cut off your parents and pay for the dentist's nose job, you walk right out. But under the hypnotic eye of the Shati, his followers actively police themselves to keep the delusion alive. As coaches, leaders and hypnotists, the Buddhafield case gives us a vital warning about the nature of what we call transference. Transference happens when a client takes the deep emotions, trust or authority they possess and projects them onto the practitioner. Michael didn't just accept that transference, he intentionally expanded it until he replaced his followers' inner compass entirely, using 3 specific clinical mechanisms. 1. The spiritual high as a chemical anchor. When you enter a profound hypnotic trance, your brain releases a cocktail of neurochemicals that feel incredibly euphoric. Michael explicitly anchored that feeling to his physical presence. Followers became biochemically addicted to his sessions. If they thought about leaving, they faced an intense psychological and physiological withdrawal. 2. The deconstruction of the conscious monster. Your conscious mind has a gatekeeper, a monitor that says, this behavior is strange. By constantly labeling that gatekeeper as the sinful, unenlightened ego, Michael trained his followers to actively suppress their own critical thinking. If their gut instinct told them something was wrong, they blamed themselves for being spiritually deficient. 3. Hypersuggestibility through isolation. Hypnosis is exponentially more powerful when you control the subject's entire environment. By removing outside media, families, and alternative perspectives, there was no reality testing available. Michael's voice became the only voice defining truth. Now, let's take a massive breath of fresh air and clarify what a normal, ethical, completely sane clinical hypnotherapist actually does on planet Earth, just so we remain completely grounded in reality. When you see a real professional like me, we don't ask you to move into a commune. We don't tell you to cut off your family, and we certainly don't make you buy us a nose job. First of all, we discuss our session prices, terms and fees explicitly upfront in broad daylight before any trance work happens. No weird spiritual debt collectors. Second, we explain the exact scientific mechanics of the session so your conscious mind is entirely informed and relaxed. And most importantly, when the session is done, we run a thorough, grounding dehypnotization process to make sure your brain is fully alert, your critical thinking is completely sharp, and you're 100% stable enough to safely drive a car home. No Speedos, no eyeliner, no ego destruction, just clean, elite mental alignment. The profound lesson of the Buddhafield case is that true alignment and authentic personal growth should never require you to erase who you are. An ethical guide will never ask you to destroy your ego, your boundaries, or your bank account just so they can sit on the throne of your mind. True leadership builds your boundaries. It doesn't dissolve them. If you're ready to put the invisible baggage down, clear the cognitive noise, and lead your business with a sharp, sovereign, and completely unburdened mind, I invite you to book your free 40-minute clarity call with me today. Together, we will run a precise clinical audit of your current mindset, permanently dismantle the external conditioning, and install a powerful, unshakable subconscious identity focused entirely on your true present authority. Remember, aligned subconscious plus healed history equals unshakable leadership. Thank you for listening. Align your mind, heal your past, grow your business. Mindfully yours, Julie.